You have no right to be here. I am building this house, and you cannot stop me with this ridiculous fine. I don't care what the HOA says. We are finishing this house.
You will cease construction immediately or the fines double.
The police are here to ensure compliance.
They showed up, without warning. No phone call. No letter. No sign that anything was about to change. Just presence. 3 black SUVs, rolling slowly up my gravel driveway. Their tires crushing the stones beneath them. Dust rising into the air, hanging there, like a signal. Like something was about to happen. Something big. At first, I thought they were lost. It wouldn't be the first time. People sometimes take the wrong turn down this road, thinking it leads somewhere else. But it doesn't. This road only leads to one place. My home. And no one comes this far into the mountains. Unless they have a reason. And these people? They definitely had one. I stood still for a moment, watching from a distance. Something about the way they moved. Slow, controlled, deliberate. It didn't feel random. It felt planned. I stepped out onto my porch, coffee still in my hand. The warmth of the cup barely noticeable anymore. My eyes followed the vehicles as they came to a stop right in front of my house. Engines turned off. Doors stayed closed, just for a second, like they were waiting. Then, one by one, the doors opened. First a man in a dark suit. Then another. Then 2 more. All of them stepping out with the same posture. Straight backs, serious faces, no hesitation. And then, she stepped out. A woman, wearing a bright pink blazer. Sharp, bold, impossible to ignore. The kind of person who doesn't just walk into a situation. She takes control of it. And behind them, a police officer, standing beside the vehicle, watching everything, not saying a word. That's when something shifted. That small feeling in the back of my mind turned into certainty. This wasn't normal. Not even close. I placed my coffee down slowly on the wooden railing, never taking my eyes off them. The air felt different now. Heavier. Like the mountains themselves were holding their breath. The woman started walking toward me. Confident steps. No hesitation. No doubt. Like she had already decided how this was going to end. And I was just part of the process. She stopped a few feet away from me. Close enough to make it clear. This was official. "Good morning," she said. But there was no warmth in her voice. No friendliness. No respect. Just tone. Cold. Controlled. Professional, but empty. "Sir, this property is now under HOA jurisdiction." For a second, I didn't react, because my brain was still trying to catch up. HOA? Up here? It didn't make sense. And then, I laughed. A small laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it sounded ridiculous. "HOA," I said. "There's never been an HOA here. This land, I knew it. Every inch of it. When I bought it, there was nothing. No structures. No signs. No rules. Just trees, rocks, and open sky. I built everything you see here, from the ground up." So hearing that, it didn't just sound wrong. It sounded impossible. But she didn't react. Didn't smile. Didn't explain. She just looked at me, steady, unbothered. "There is now." Just like that. 2 words. And somehow, they carried weight. Heavy weight. No explanation. No discussion. No room for questions. Just control. The kind of control that doesn't ask. It tells. She reached into her folder, pulled out a document, perfectly straight, perfectly clean, and handed it to me. Neatly printed. Official looking. The kind of paper that's designed to intimidate you before you even read it. I took it slowly, my fingers gripping the edges. My eyes already scanning the page before my mind could process anything. Lines of text. Legal language. Formal tone. And then, I saw it. The number. $195,000. I blinked. Once. Twice. For a second, I thought I read it wrong. Maybe an extra 0. Maybe a typo. But no. It was real. $195,000. In fines. My grip tightened on the paper. For what? That was the only question in my head. What could possibly justify that number? My eyes moved down the page. Violation of architectural compliance. Unauthorized construction. Landscaping violations. The list kept going. Each line more ridiculous than the last. I looked up at her, trying to understand if this was serious or some kind of mistake. "This house has been here for years." I said it slowly, clearly, like maybe, just maybe. She didn't know. Yes, she replied calmly. And it violates current HOA standards. Current standards. The words echoed in my head. Standards that didn't even exist when I built this place. Standards created after everything was already done. I could feel it now. That slow burn. Frustration. Building piece by piece. But I didn't let it show. Not fully. I took a breath. You can't just come here and make up rules. My voice was steady, controlled, but firm. Her expression didn't change. Not even slightly. We're not making them up. That was it. No explanation. No justification. Just denial. Like repeating it made it true. And that's when I noticed something else. Something I hadn't focused on before. Behind her, near the edge of my property, there it was. A bulldozer. Large. Silent. Parked like it belonged there. Like it was waiting. And next to it, workers. Standing in small groups. Talking quietly. Looking toward the house. Toward me. Waiting. But not for instructions from me. From her. From them. For an order. That realization hit differently. This wasn't just talk. This wasn't just paperwork. This was action. Prepared. Planned. Ready. You have 48 hours, she said. Her voice cutting through the silence. Sharp. Clear. Final. To bring the property into compliance or face demolition. That word. Demolition. It landed heavy. Heavier than anything else she said. Not fines. Not violations. Demolition. The complete destruction of everything I built. Everything I worked for. Everything that mattered. She turned, like the conversation was already over. Like my response didn't matter. Like my home, my life, meant nothing. And one by one, they walked back to their vehicles. Doors closing. Engines starting. Gravel shifting under tires. And just like that, they were gone. Driving away. Like they had already won. Leaving behind silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. The kind that doesn't feel peaceful. It feels empty. I stood there, still holding that paper. My eyes slowly moving from the road. Back to my house. The wood I chose, piece by piece. The stones I placed with my own hands. The porch I sat on every evening. Watching the sun disappear behind the mountains. The memories inside those walls. Every corner had a story. Every room had a reason. And now, they wanted to erase it. In 48 hours. Just like that. No history. No respect. No hesitation. But as I stood there, something didn't feel right. Not just about what they said, but how they said it. The way they acted. Too confident. Too sure. Too prepared. Like this wasn't a possibility for them. It was a certainty. Like they believed. I couldn't stop them. Like they had already decided how this would end. And maybe, for most people, they would be right. Most people would panic. Most people would give in. Most people would lose. But I'm not most people. And they had no idea who they were dealing with. Fire. The next few days were nothing but pressure. Not the loud kind. Not chaos. But something quieter. Something heavier. The kind of pressure that doesn't hit all at once. It builds slowly. Bit by bit. Until it's everywhere. Constant pressure. Every morning started the same way. Silence. The mountains calm. The air still. Everything exactly how it had always been. Peaceful. But that peace? It didn't last long anymore. Because right after that silence came the reminder. The sound of tires on gravel. A delivery truck making its way up my driveway. Another envelope. Another message. Another warning. Letters started arriving every morning. At first, just one. Then the next day, another. Then more. Sometimes two, sometimes three. Different envelopes. Different formats. But all carrying the same message. Warnings. Notices. Legal threats. Each one more aggressive than the last. The words became sharper. Colder. More demanding. It wasn't just information anymore. It was pressure. Design pressure. Every sentence written in a way that made it clear. They weren't asking. They were telling. I would sit at my table. The papers spread out in front of me. Reading them slowly. Carefully. Taking in every word. Failure to comply will result in enforcement action. Non-response will be considered acceptance. Legal consequences will follow. They weren't just sending letters. They were building a case. And at the same time, they were trying to break me. Break my patience. Break my confidence. Break my resistance. It was like they wanted me to give up. Before the deadline even arrived. Before things became public. Before anyone could question them. And then, I started noticing something else. Something subtle at first, but impossible to ignore once you saw it. People. Strangers. Cars I had never seen before. Driving slowly past my property. Not just passing through, but observing, watching. Some would slow down, almost stopping, windows slightly lowered, eyes fixed on the house, on me, then whispers, quick conversations, and then they drive away, like they had seen enough, like they were gathering something, forming opinions, judging. It didn't feel random. It felt organized. And soon, those quiet observations turned into something louder. The neighbors, or at least, the people calling themselves neighbors. People who had never spoken to me before. People who had never stepped onto this land. Never introduced themselves. Never cared. But now they had voices. This property doesn't fit the community. It's too big. It doesn't match the standards. It lowers the value of everything around it. I heard it all. Sometimes directly. Sometimes through passing conversations. Sometimes just loud enough. So I couldn't ignore it. And every time I heard it, one thought came to mind. Where were they when I built this place? When there was nothing here. No roads. No houses. No community. Just land. Empty, untouched land. None of them were here. None of them helped. None of them cared. But now that everything was built, now that it had value, now that it stood out, they had opinions. And the HOA? They used that perfectly. They didn't stop the complaints. They encouraged them, turned them into reports, turned opinions into violations, turned voices into pressure. They held meetings, discussions, votes, decisions, all happening somewhere else, behind closed doors. And somehow, every decision pointed in one direction. Against me. Everything was moving fast. Too fast. Faster than it should. Faster than something like this normally moves. There was no delay. No review. No proper process. Just action. Immediate, direct, aggressive action. Almost like they were rushing. Like they wanted everything done quickly. Before anyone could slow it down. Before anyone could question it. Because the more I thought about it, the less it made sense. Rules that appeared overnight. Fines that had no history. Authority that came out of nowhere. But they didn't want time. Time creates questions. Time creates doubt. And they didn't want either. On the second day, things escalated. Another letter arrived. But this one felt different. Heavier. More final. I could feel it the moment I picked it up. I walked inside slowly, sat down at the same table, and placed it in front of me. For a moment, I didn't open it. I just looked at it. Because sometimes, you already know what's inside. Then finally, I opened it, pulled out the paper, and there it was. Bold letters across the top. Final notice. No softness. No politeness. No space for interpretation. Just final. Failure to comply will result in immediate enforcement action. I read it once. Then again. Slower the second time. Letting every word sink in. No more warnings. No more delays. No more chances. Just action. Real action. The kind that doesn't wait. The kind that doesn't ask. The kind that forces change. I leaned back in my chair. The paper still in my hand. And for a moment, everything went quiet. Completely quiet. No wind outside. No sound inside. Just stillness. And in that moment, something unexpected happened. No anger. No stress. No panic. Just thinking. Clear thinking. Because here's the truth. When people try to control you, they expect one reaction. Fear. They expect you to feel small. Panic. They expect you to rush. Submission. They expect you to give in. To accept everything without question. But I wasn't feeling any of that. Not fear. Not panic. Not even anger anymore. Because anger clouds judgment. And I needed clarity. Instead, I was waiting. Watching. Letting things unfold. Because people who move too fast. People who act with too much confidence. They make mistakes. And these people? They were very confident. That night, I went outside. Same porch. Same view. But everything felt different now. The sun was setting behind the mountains. Slowly disappearing beyond the horizon. Painting the sky in shades of orange, gold, and deep red. The kind of view that makes everything else feel small. The wind chimes on my porch, moved gently in the breeze. Soft sounds. Calm. Steady. Peaceful. The kind of peace you don't find in cities. The kind you can't buy. The kind you build. I sat there for a long time. Longer than usual. Not thinking too much. Not planning. Just observing. Feeling the moment. Because something told me. This moment mattered. The calm before everything changed. The air grew cooler. The light faded slowly. Shadows stretched across the land. Everything slowing down. Just before it all sped up again. Because I knew. Deep down. Tomorrow. Everything would change. Not slowly. Not gradually. But instantly. The deadline was over. The waiting was done. And they were coming back. Not to talk. Not to negotiate. Not to explain. But to act. To enforce. To take control. The way they believed they already had. And the truth is, they thought they had already won. That I would step aside. That I would give in. That I would let them do whatever they wanted. But they didn't understand something important. They didn't understand me. And tomorrow, they were finally going to realize exactly who they were dealing with. Fire. Morning came early. Too early. Not because of the time, but because of what it carried with it. I didn't even need an alarm. Sleep was light that night. Broken. Restless. Because somewhere in the back of my mind, I already knew. Today wasn't going to be normal. Today something was going to happen. Something final. I opened my eyes slowly. The room still quiet. The soft light of early morning just beginning to creep through the windows. For a moment, everything felt calm, peaceful, like nothing had changed. But that feeling didn't last. Because then, I heard it. Engines. Not one. Multiple. Low at first. Then louder. Growing. Echoing through the mountains. Bouncing off the trees, the rocks. Filling the silence. I sat up. Paused. Listened carefully. There was no doubt now. They were here. I stood up slowly, took a breath, and walked toward the door. Each step calm, measured, no rush. Because this moment, it wasn't unexpected. It was inevitable. I opened the door, stepped outside, and looked ahead. And there they were. More vehicles this time. More than before. More than necessary. Police cars lined along the driveway. Construction trucks parked behind them. And further back, media vans. Cameras already set up. People moving around, preparing, adjusting equipment. They didn't just come to act. They came to be seen. They wanted a show. They wanted control. On display. The kind of display that sends a message to everyone watching. This is what happens when you don't comply. I stood there quietly, taking it all in. The movement, the noise, the energy. And then, I saw her. The same woman. Stepping out of her vehicle. Same pink blazer. Same posture. Same expression. Confidence. Unshaken. Untouched. But this time, there was something more. Something different. Certainty. The kind of certainty that only comes when someone believes the outcome is already decided. Like this was the final step. Like everything had already been won. She walked toward me again. Same pace. Same control. But now, with an audience behind her. She stopped in front of me. Looked directly at me. Last chance, she said. Her voice firm. Sharp. Final. Step aside. I looked at her. Calm. Steady. No anger. No fear. Just clarity. And then I said it. No. Just one word. Simple. Quiet. But it carried weight. More than anything else that had been said. Because in that moment, it wasn't just a response. It was a decision. And it changed everything. She paused for a second. Just a second. Then nodded toward the officers. Proceed. That one word. Set everything in motion. The officers began moving. Slowly. Professionally. Step by step. Closing the distance between us. Their expressions serious. Focused. They weren't emotional. They were doing a job. A job they believed was valid. A job they believed was legal. And for them, this was just another enforcement. Another property. Another case. But this one was different. They just didn't know it yet. And that's when I moved. Not quickly. Not dramatically. Just calmly. I reached into my pocket. Pulled out my wallet. Opened it. And held it up. Simple. Quiet. But intentional. The closest officer saw it immediately. His eyes locked onto it. Focused. Reading. Processing. And then, everything about him changed. His posture straightened. His movement stopped. Completely. Like something clicked. Instantly. Ma'am, he said quietly. His voice no longer firm. But cautious. You might want to see this. She looked at him, confused. Slightly annoyed. Like this was an interruption she didn't expect. She stepped forward. Reached out. And grabbed the ID from my hand. Glanced at it. For a second. Nothing happened. No reaction. No movement. Just silence. And then, her expression changed. Subtly at first. Then completely. The color drained from her face. The confidence gone. The certainty disappeared. Replaced by something else. Realization. What is this? She whispered. Her voice no longer strong. No longer controlled. Just uncertain. I took a step forward. Slowly. Calmly. It means, I said, pausing just enough. You're trying to demolish the governor's property. Silence. Complete silence. The kind that doesn't just fill the air. It presses on you. Heavy. Unavoidable. The officers stepped back immediately. Instinct. Respect. Awareness. One of them straightened up quickly. Almost formal now. Sir, we weren't informed. I know, I replied. And I did. Because this wasn't their mistake. They were following orders. Orders given without full information. Orders built on assumptions. The cameras were still rolling. Still capturing everything. But now, the story had changed. Completely. They weren't filming authority anymore. They weren't capturing power. They were capturing something else. Embarrassment. Confusion. A situation falling apart. The woman tried to speak. Opened her mouth. But no words came out. Because what do you say? When everything you believed turns out to be wrong. In that moment, everything flipped. The power. The control. The situation. All of it. Gone. Not slowly. Not gradually. But instantly. Within hours. Everything started changing. The demolition order? Cancelled. Immediately. The fines? Frozen. Under review. No longer valid. No longer enforceable. And then, something bigger happened. An investigation. Official. Serious. Immediate. Because now, questions were being asked. Important questions. Who authorized this? How was this approved? Why wasn't ownership verified? Turns out, they never checked properly. Never confirmed the details. They assumed I was just another homeowner. Just another name on a list. Someone easy to pressure. Easy to control. Easy to remove. They were wrong. And now, they were the ones being questioned. Days passed. And one by one, things began to fall apart for them. The HOA board? Gone. Removed. Position stripped. Authority taken away. Some faced legal consequences. Serious ones. Others chose to disappear quietly. Resignations. Statements. Excuses. But none of it changed what happened. And the community? Silent. No more complaints. No more whispers. No more opinions. Because now, they understood. Pressure only works when the person on the other side can be pressured. And I couldn't. A few weeks later, everything was back to normal. Or at least, as normal as it could be. I was back on my porch. Same chair. Same view. The mountains stretching out in front of me. The wind chimes moving gently in the breeze. That same peaceful sound. Nothing had changed. The house was still there. The land untouched. The silence returned. But one thing was different. The understanding. Because now, everyone knew something they didn't know before. Not everything is what it seems. Not every homeowner is powerless. And sometimes, the person you try to control is the one who holds all the power. And when that moment comes, everything changes. Fire.